It's a pretty good story because I was born in Brunswick, and my mother and father lived there, and we had 7 children there, and I was the oldest boy. By the time I was 9 years old, I was on St. Simon's Island, and we had bicycles, and the kids and my friends and my brothers and sisters, and we would ride everywhere all over the island, down the main roads, because there was no traffic to speak of that equates to today. And so there were no bike sidewalks or anything. You just rode down the roads. Every chance I got, I would be down there. And finally, 20 years ago, retired and moved there permanently. We began to see many new golf courses coming on, live oaks coming down. And so we just started talking around to people and realized that we were going to have to take significant actions to have any effect on how what things were happening. There was something that really got us going, and that is this ugly gas station, which was right there where right now we have the roundabout there on Denbury Road. It was a big, and it was a body shop place, and it was not very pretty. And finally they just closed down because I don't know why, and it was just sitting there vacant. And so that was, didn't take us very long to just start talking to people and raising the funds that we'd buy that piece of property and take it off the market, just
make green space.
Make green space.
I remember there was a big thermometer, a sign with a thermometer on it at what the goal was. I think it was $900,000. And you had to stop at that light. At the time, there wasn't a roundabout. So anyone, that's a major thoroughfare. Everyone started to recognize that there was a land trust, and here's a project that they're doing. I think that was a great kickstart to it.
And I think, of course, the next thing that happened that really made things go well also is that Sea Island people were 100% in favor of what we were doing, because to get to Sea Island, people had to come across St. Simon's. And so they were very interested in trying to make the gateway to their Sea Island was maintained and beautiful, and that added to everything they were doing there.
And they had always, the Jones family had always been such good stewards of the land. They owned the majority of the undeveloped property on St. Simon's, and were very thoughtful in how they developed. It wasn't like as much as you can get in, and it was very well done. And so I think that their philosophy and what the land trust goals were in sync. Buy a piece of property and challenge us to purchase the one next to it, and that's how we protected some of the green space up Frederica Road towards Hampton. And I do remember when Ben probably would tell this story, but that he would say, at first we thought, if we could just get 30 people to give us $1,000 a year. And that's how the Live Oak Society started. But it was much more successful than anyone anticipated. And that gave funds for operation, to run the land trust, not necessarily acquire property. And then Sea Island brought in their lodging fee, which really carried the organization in terms of operational funds annually. But then once we started on bigger projects, the Old Stables project, I think really brought in people who were conservation minded and had, deep pockets. That project we only had about 5 months to do that. And it was 2.5 acres right on the corner of Frederica and Sea Island Drive. Laura Richards and her family, they did the lead gift on the Old Stables project. So that jump-started that with half of the money already raised. And then their mother passed away, and they made a major contribution to help us acquire the land for Frederica Park. And it became the Alice Richards Botanical Trail. Well, after the old stables, the success of that, immediately we were able to develop a 20-acre park on the north end, which again, the Richards family was involved in, but also Sea Island donated the land. And then we had to raise the money to build a real park. And it was the first park on St. Simon's in over 50 years, the first new park. And you think about all the development that had happened over that 50-year period, but no park or green space to go along with that. So that was very exciting. And then from right after that is when we were approached by the Paulsons on Cannons Point, which is the most important thing I think the Land Trust ever did.
Back in the 1800s, it was a huge plantation, and all of the footings from the grand house that was there are still there. And so now 600 acres with this beautiful leftover mansion that was there, and then all the access to water and all the wild animals that were still there, that you know, the deer and all that could be just seen at any time. And to be able to save that was just mind-boggling.
Because it would have been I think it probably would have been 600 houses and a golf course. And it has amazing live oak trees. I mean, huge, that have to be hundreds of years old. But that was, in terms of the impact it would have had on the island with traffic and runoff and all of that. Instead, you have this pristine peninsula surrounded by marsh. It's tremendously important ecosystem, very, very biodiverse, which is, it's part of this effort to keep the coast green. So you know, here was this little land trust that has made a major contribution to efforts all along the coast to save the maritime forest and the wildlife and that goes along with it. With Cannons Point, that was just remarkable in the generosity that we saw from people. And then because it was such an important project, we were able to go to major foundations in the state. We also had the backing of Hank and Wendy Paulson, who put in the first $8 million of this $25 million effort, and said, you know, they said to us, do the best that you can to raise this, because no one in Glenn County, no nonprofit had ever raised that kind of money. You know, maybe 5 or 6 million was the largest campaign that we'd seen to date. From a fundraising perspective, it was the most exciting thing I'd ever done. And, you know, for us to receive $5 million from the Woodruff Foundation was, I think, the most exciting day that I ever had at the Land Trust. And then bringing it, you know, to get the opportunity to meet people like Hank and Wendy Paulson, and the sincerity of their efforts in conservation and what they were doing for this whole area, not just for St. Simon's. And, you know, it was really fun, really fun. The goal would be that at some point, if you can't continue to purchase property or get it off the market, then we become and have already programming and education and awareness and experiences for young people and old in terms of getting outdoors. But I think that, you know, in 2000, no one would have ever expected that the Land Trust would have been able to preserve Cannons Point and Musgrove and the old stables and what they've been able to do. So there's no reason to think that 100 years from now, it wouldn't be an integral part of St. Simon's still, the Land Trust, and that the role may have changed from protecting land to managing and stewarding it and educating the community. And it'll be a beacon, I would hope, for other parts of the country 100 years after it started. And I would think that they would be so grateful that there were people like Jim and Jeannie Manning and Ben Slade and Francis McCrary and Denny McCrary that stepped up and got this organized, and it's had an impact. It's had an impact at 20 years. Imagine the impact it'll have at 100.